Hello, my name is Katrice Horsley, and I'm a storyteller and narrative consultant who has been living in Borås in Sweden for about 4 years now. And I can speak Swedish, but I think you might understand my English better. Behind me, I have a quilt that I made in 2000, so 21 years ago now. And I went all around Great Britain and I collected stories from British grandmothers. And then I went to Ghana because I had lived in Ghana for 6 years. And I wanted to share the stories of the British grandmothers with the Ghanaian grandmothers and find out whether there were shared stories or superstitions or old wives' cures. And I recorded the stories on mini discs. I bet some of you have no idea even what mini discs are because they're quite old now and certainly not used that much. So all of the women's voices are on those discs and their songs and their stories. And I did that because even at that time, I knew that some voices were heard and some stories were told, but other voices were not heard. And their stories were not told. And that begs the question, who decides? Who decides what stories are worth hearing and what voices are worth listening to? I work with different types of story. I work with personal stories. Those are the stories we're told by our parents and by our teachers. And quite often, we swallow them when we're little. We never challenge them. We never say to our parents when we're 3, "No, I'm not stupid. I'm not fat." Because our parents wouldn't lie to us, would they? We just swallow it and think, I'm stupid. I'm fat. And then I work with social narratives and cultural narratives. And these are the stories that our societies tell us about what it is to be successful, what it is to be beautiful, what it is to have a high status. And they will change from country to country and culture to culture and generation to generation. And we can only start to understand why we believe what we believe about ourselves when we become aware of those cultural narratives and those personal narratives and we pull them apart. And one of the most powerful ways of doing that is using the third type of story, traditional stories. These women told me some amazing traditional stories, and the whole project was called The Wisdom of the Grandmothers. And that's a story I'd like to share with you. It comes from Ghana. And in Ghana, quite often, a storyteller will start by saying, I do not say that what I am about to say is true. So let us start. In the time that once was, is now gone forever, but will come again soon, there was a great, great city. And the king of this city, why, he was a proud and powerful man. But to his land there came a great famine. The rains did not come from the sky, and the crops did not grow, and the animals left. There was nothing to hunt, and the people started challenging his leadership and saying that perhaps he wasn't such a good leader because he wasn't dealing with it well. And those whispers, they got to the king's ears, and he went to his wise men and he said, what do I do? And the wise men said to him, point the finger at somebody else. And the king looked around his kingdom, looked around the lands and thought, the old people, they're weak. They've lived their lives. I'll point the finger at The grandmothers. I will blame the grandmothers. And so a proclamation was sent out that the king had discovered that all the grandmothers were witches and they needed to be killed. And he was a powerful man, and people were scared of him, and other people believed him. And they all wanted food, and they thought, well, the old people, they've lived their lives, and the old women. And so all the grandmothers were slaughtered. Oh, but how some people lamented and cried, and some people, they wanted their mothers, they wanted their grandmas, and the sky was bruised black with the pain of those people who had not wanted it to happen. But there was one man, a hunter, and his grandmother had taken care of him when his parents had died. She had been mother and father to him, grandmother and grandfather, and he could not slaughter her. He could not. And so he took her in the night and he hid her in a cave in the bush. And he kept it secret. And every day he would come and he would bring food to her, and he would bring news of what was happening in the town, in the cities. And the old grandmother, oh, she loved him. She loved him like he was her own heart. But only he could visit her. He could not tell anybody else for fear that she too would be slaughtered. Now, the earth turned on its axis and the season changed and the rain came from the skies and the crops started to grow and the animals came back, and the king, he said, that was me. That was me who did that. I am such a wonderful king. I deserve a great celebration. Come, my people, follow me, follow me. Let us storm down the streets and I will be dressed in fine clothes and regalia. And the people wanted a celebration after being under the cloud of famine for so long. And so they thought, yes, now we have something to look forward to. And the king, he wanted the finest regalia, the finest clothing, something that would show his power, his potency. He decided he would wear a leopard skin. He had the hunters hunt the biggest leopard they could find, and he was stitched into the leopard skin, a sign of power and wealth and virility. The head of the leopard came over his head, the claws came over his hands, the stomach was stitched up over his stomach. It was a tight fit. And then he was carried out on the shoulders of strong men under a great umbrella. The drums started, dancing started, the women waved their handkerchiefs, and the sun beat down hot. And the people, whoo, they sweated. And the king, he sweated. And the leopard skin became wet and stretched, but the sun beat down and the leopard skin tightened, and he sweated, and the sun tightened the skin, and it loosened and tightened and loosened and tightened and tightened and tightened. For each time it happened, it shrunk a little bit until the king was sitting there in great discomfort because it was hurting some of his very sensitive parts. Oh, oh, oh. And his wise men by the side of him said, Your Majesty, is it ants or something? You look uncomfortable. The king was like, no, it's fine. I'm fine. Until it got to the point where he could not be quiet any longer. And he said to them, carry me in to the palace. And they took him into the palace and he said, get this leopard skin off me. But when they went to pull it, it pulled at his skin. When they went to cut it, they cut into his skin. It was so tight now, it was stopping the blood supply to his legs and to his chest and to his hands. And he said, come, somebody must know. Somebody must be wise enough to know how to get this off me. But his wise men did not know. And the message was sent out into the town. Somebody must come and help the king. And people came, but they could not start to remove it without actually injuring the king himself. And the king put out a proclamation saying anybody who could come up with a way of taking the skin off him without injuring him, they would get half of his kingdom and half of his wealth. The hunter heard that. And he was going out to visit his mother in the cave. And he took some food with him and he told her what had happened in the city. The old grandmother, she smiled. She said, that's an easy thing. And the hunter said to her, you know, grandmother? You know how to do it? Of course, child, she said. He just needs to be taken to the river and he needs to be dropped into the river 3 times and then the skin will become wet and stretched and it will slide from his body. I have not lived for 80 years without gathering some wisdom. The hunter, he took that knowledge and he went back to the palace where the guards were guarding the entrance. And he said, excuse me, I have a way of taking the skin from the king. The hunters looked at, or rather the guards looked at this hunter with his dirty clothes and his poor shoes, and they said, you have the answer. The hunter said, yes, I do. Let me through. I do. And so the guards thought, well, why not? And they let the hunter through, and the hunter met with the king. And the hunter said, Your Majesty, do you promise not to injure the person who gave me the answer to your problem? The king could hardly speak now. The skin was so tight, his breath was so shallow. I promise. Take it off me. And so the hunter said to the guards, carry the king down to the river. And the guards carried him. And they pushed him down in the water once. And lifted him up. Twice. And lifted him up. Thrice, 3 times. And lifted him up. And the skin became wet and dropped from his body. And the king smiled such a big smile, it went twice round his head. He was so happy. And he said to the hunter, who was it? Who was it who told you? And the hunter said, my grandmother. All around them, there was a sharp intake of breath. But the king, he'd made a promise. And he kept to his promises. He was a good man in that way. And he said, then bring her to the palace and she will have half of my kingdom and half of my wealth. And so it was that the grandmother was carried into the kingdom on the shoulders of the men, and there was partying and feasting. And they celebrated her wisdom. And from that day forward, whenever there were very important meetings to be had, the people called those meetings the talking of the grandmothers in celebration of the wisdom of that grandmother. And there ends my story. For me, that was such a powerful story when I heard it. And it was such a positive story, such a positive view of aging, such a positive view of getting older and having grey hair. And it worked so much against the story I was being told and that we all are being told about getting older being such a bad thing, aging being so negative, look younger, have Botox. Who decided? Who decided that getting old was a negative thing? It's something we can't not do. We can't stop aging. We might fight to stop the signs of aging, but there's an inevitability. If we have birth, we have death. If we have youth, we have old age. And there are so many negative aspects in today's society with regards to getting old. And so many older people who feel that perhaps they're not positive anymore, that they're not needed anymore, that they are not honoured anymore. It reminds me of a story. It's one of my absolute favourite stories. I heard it when I was working in Palestine. I heard it when I was in Ramallah. It's a great story. Are you ready? It's a story of an old woman. But she was a happy old woman, for she had a purpose in life. She was the water carrier. Every single morning, she would put a big wooden pole over her strong shoulders, and she would hang ceramic jugs, one either end of that pole. And that old woman would walk down the dry, dusty path to the well. And she would fill those jugs up to the rim with crystal clear, sparkling water. She'd hoist them back on her old shoulders, walk back up the dry, dusty path to the well, to the village, not the well. And the people came and the people drank and they were happy and she was happy. Now, one day, the old woman took those two jugs and she walked down the dry, dusty path to the well. She filled them up to the rim with that crystal clear, sparkling water. She hoisted them back on her old shoulders. She walked back up the path to the village. The people came, the people drank, but they left some water in the bottom of one of those ceramic jugs. And that night, the temperature dropped and the water turned to ice, and the ice expanded and the jug cracked. Not a big crack, but it was definitely a crack. And the perfect jug next to it started to whisper, "Look at you. You're broken. You're ugly. She'll throw you away, you know. She'll throw you away. You're broken. You're pathetic. You're useless. You're worthless. Ugly. She'll throw you away. Ugly. Pathetic. Useless." It hissed its insults all night at that broken jug. And when the morning sun came up to greet the sky, it fell silent. The woman took those jugs. She walked down the dry, dusty path to the well. She filled them up to the rim with that crystal clear, sparkling water. She hoisted them on her old, strong shoulders, the broken jug on her left-hand side. And as she walked up the dry, dusty path to the village, that broken jug wept tears of sorrow all along the left-hand side of the path. That night, the perfect jug started again. Pathetic, useless, worthless, pathetic, useless, worthless. She'll throw you away. She'll throw you away. You know, look at you. You're so ugly. You're scarred, pathetic. It hissed its insults all through the night. And when the morning sun came up to greet the sky, it fell silent. The second day, that woman took those jugs on her shoulder. She walked down the dry, dusty path to the well. She filled them up to the rim with that crystal clear, sparkling water, hoisted them on her shoulders, and once more, the broken jug was on her left-hand side, and once more. It wept tears of sorrow all along the left-hand side of the path. That night, it started again. Pathetic, useless, worthless, pathetic, useless, worthless. You'll throw you away. You're broken. You're no good. You're scarred. Look at you. You're so ugly. That perfect jug hissed its insults all night. It did not stop. Even when the sun came up to greet the sky, it did not stop. Even as that woman came and walked down, down, down the dry, dusty path, it did not stop. Even as she filled them up to the brim, to the rim with that crystal clear, sparkling water, it did not stop. Even as she headed back up the dry, dusty path, it did not stop. But she was a wise old woman, and she could hear the song of the soil beneath her feet. And she could see the art in the clouds in the sky above her. And she could hear that damn jug. And she placed them both on the floor, and she said, "Silence. Look. Look upon the left-hand side of the path." And there, all along the left-hand side of the path, small green leaves were pushing up through the moist, crumbling soil. Petals of flowers were uncurling and unfurling in the long golden fingers of the sun. All because of the cracks in the broken jug. And the good jug fell silent. Such truth is in that story. Such truth that is borne by all of these women. Such truth that is borne by all of us. And I want to finish. I want to finish by sharing 2 poems with you. And these poems are part of a performance I do, all about the power and potency of women, of older women, and of how our voices will often be squashed, and how we will often not be seen or heard, and how we need to raise our voices up. So let me start by showing you why I did the show, because of this stuff. Let me read, this is Swedish. Here it says, we should cover up and conceal our skin so that nobody knows what we are trying to hide. This one says that this product reduces the signs of aging, even deep wrinkles. God forbid we should have deep wrinkles. This one says that we all should be wearing pink because it's the new colour and the colour of newborn girls and the feminist campaign. So wear it on your face as makeup. This one says we need this cream because it's extra firming. God forbid we should have skin that sags or wrinkles. That is why I composed the show, and that is why I composed and wrote these poems. First poem. Listen to our words that go, listen to our words that flow into your souls, into your minds, words of power, words that bind you to us and us to you. We will tell you what to do, what to be, what to see. Trust us now, we hold the key to your joy and to your peace, and for your sakes we will not cease to tell you what you need to buy. We will supply, you will comply. We do not lie. This week we offer such great deals, from hair remover to slimming meals. We have complexion correction cream, turned your skin into a dream, targeted wrinkle filling for plumped up skin, surgery for that double chin, our clump defying mascara helps your lashes go much farther, moisture cream, surge hydration, stops the southerly migration of skin from bone, of aging line. It's for your youth that you all pine. Buy our products, they help you cope, and take our pills, they give you hope, and stay contained within the frame that we have made for you. And whatever you may do, stay within. Trust us all, we care, we care. Trust us all. Beware, beware. Poem 2. Listen to my words that flow. Listen to my words that go into your souls, into your minds. Words of power that when combined, show you all that you are free, free to be what you're meant to be, that you are full and not empty. Full of beauty, full of power, a surging river, a tender flower. And now my power is in place. Please turn and face that other face, that perfect face beneath your skin, and feel the power contained within. And do not twist and turn and turn, and do not turn and twist and turn, and yearn for money and yearn for youth. Face the beauty of age's truth. Ascend and fend away the fears that gnaw and claw upon your soul. Be bold, embolden yourself unto yourself. You are unique, complete, your own heartbeat, unique, unique. Go be loved and give love well, be a vital force and ocean swell. Give out love responsibly, that is a necessity. Not the things you own possess, not your suit, not your dress, not the makeup on your face, not the body it does encase. Embrace your grace. Love your wrinkles, love your lines. Love your white hair, it defines you and shows your life was full. Love your wounds and love your pain. It's through them that your strength is gained. And shed your tears and shed them well, for they leave room for love to dwell. And yes, I know these words are true. And yes, I share them now with you, that you are perfect through and through and through. Who tells our story? Isn't it time we told our own? About what beauty is, what aging is, about the truth. Thank you very much for listening, for being here with us today on International Women's Day. And thank you very much for Medborger Skolan. Tack så mycket for inviting me here today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be powerful, women, men, and everybody in between. Enjoy. You are perfect and wonderful. Bye-bye.